Several weeks after the boat carrying the boy's mother and stepfather, along with 10 other people, capsized on its way to Miami. Cuban Americans all over our country are outraged at the decision. Here's Cynthia Santana.
I think he deserved an opportunity to stay here.
Hundreds of miles away in Union City, New Jersey, people Elian Gonzalez will probably never meet still argue over the 6-year-old's fate.
They don't have future in Cuba.
Elian was rescued at sea on Thanksgiving, and even though several weeks have gone by, he's been the main topic of discussion here at the Union City cafeteria, whether it's better for the boy to stay in Florida with relatives or support the INS decision to send him home to his father in Cuba.
I disagree, yes. Okay. Yes, completely. 100%. The child is not going back to his father. He's going back to the government.
I think today is a sorrowful day in our history. We set wrong legal precedents.
Cuban-American Congressman Robert Menendez of New Jersey says Elian's fate should have been determined by the courts.
The INS has unilaterally made a decision that, in fact, this child should be returned to Cuba. It is not a court of law. It does not have the process of cross-examination. It does not have people under oath.
The only thing questionable in this case, says Menendez, is the father's actions.
This man had no choice to say anything other than what he said. Failure to have said anything different, like, I think it would be okay for my son to stay with my family in the United States, would have caused clearly at some point in time the loss of his liberty and the future well-being of his family. That is life inside of Cuba.
All right, joining us to discuss this topic is Remberto Perez, the Regional Director of the Cuban-American National Foundation, and someone who I've interviewed for a long time. Michael Wiles, a high-profile immigration attorney, as well as City Councilman for Englewood, New Jersey. Up and standing young citizen. And joining us on the phone is Michael Aronson from the Daily News Editorial Board. Men, first, Michael, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
All right, we have a passionate situation here. We have a situation where a child's mother dies, stepfather dies, 10 other people die, comes here, doesn't get permission. That is, the child's mother never asked the biological father for permission to leave. She cuts out, dies, unfortunately. And it's a sad situation for the child. And let's also think of the psychological profile of the child as well. Comes here, becomes a cause célèbre. Politics gets played in Cuba. Politics gets played here. Now we have a situation where the child is being cared for by people who are so far removed from the child, they're not even grandmothers, these are grand uncles, great uncles, and one wonders, what is in the best interests of the child? His father wants him back. The courts, the INS has said he has to go back, and of course the Cuban American Committee, Remberto, has said, why doesn't he come here? Of course, if he comes here, he still has to go to court. The child's father said, I would go to the United States if I didn't have to go to court. I'd just like to go pick up my kid and leave. But apparently, he would have to come to court, his family court. Remberto, as a Cuban American and as a member of the Cuban American National Foundation, what is the best interest of the child? Shouldn't he be with his father?
Well, it's not a simple question like that. I think that at the very least, this child has earned the opportunity of due process. Yeah. I think that our position all along has been to allow the father and the family to come here, and that the U.S. courts to decide. You know, we have a much better record as an independent judicial system than Castro's system. Mm-hmm. So for this child to have an opportunity of a fair hearing, that's what would look like. All right, the family here, the family from Cuba, get it out of the politics hands, get it out of the bureaucrats' hands.
But would it be out of the politicians' hands in Dade County? The fact is that the Dade County is totally pro-Cuban American. Well, they're not going to in any way rule against a group of lobbyists and people who have, a source of income that are going to hurt their political careers.
Well, I think that we cannot indict our judicial system like that. I think that...
but we know it's true, Remberto. We have, whether it's the newspapers, you cannot make a stand in support of the Castro government in Miami without getting into a tremendous amount of problems, both physically and politically.
I don't know about physically. I mean, there are plenty of opposition or different points of view in Miami as a free country. And I think that the community would react a lot different if an opinion came from what we saw as an independent body. I don't think that the INS is qualified to rule in this kinds of issues. This is an issue that is very difficult for anybody. We don't know a lot of the things that we take for as a fact. We don't know. Well, we don't know if the father did not allow his son to come here. This is what we are hearing.
Yeah. In fact, Attorney Janet Reno said if there are any other things that come to light, it would hinder the decision to send him back. Michael Wiles, an immigration lawyer, you've been involved in many of these deportation proceedings. You work with some Syrians where this has happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've had the misfortune or the good fortune on occasion to help several women whose kids were kidnapped and taken back to countries, parental kidnapping. If you would, you could argue in this circumstance that the mother was attempting a parental kidnapping, albeit for a laudable effort of showing a better life for her child. Mm-hmm. Those countries would require an individual to go back to that country, to petition the court system there to remove and then return their child to U.S. soil. Many have been arguing that perhaps the father ought to come here, concerned that maybe he's under some kind of constraint and that he's not really speaking his mind, and then on U.S. soil with his new wife come and petition for the son, and then let a court, not the Immigration Service, the executive arm of our government, to make the determination whether or not it's in the best interest of the child to be with him.
All right. The INS has made a decision. It's January 14th, according to our Attorney General. She doubts greatly if that decision is going to be altered in any way, shape, or form. Michael, we have some contradictory events here. There was a boat, Michael, that just ran aground in the Keys full of Haitians and Dominicans.
Right, it was sent back.
Was sent back. And here we have a young child from Cuba where there's a tremendous cost. What's wrong with this picture, Michael?
Well, I think there's always been a different standard applied to Cuba for many decades, and it's that refugees who arrive here from Cuba are granted asylum generally. But refugees who are coming from Haiti or the Dominican Republic in the same manner on a boat are generally sent back.
Why is that? What is your opinion on that? Is that racial politics? Is it political stuff? What?
I think it's politically based, that there is, the U.S. government has had an embargo against the Castro regime, since the early 60s. It has been an historic ideological opponent going back to the height of the Cold War, and the view being that anyone who is fleeing that communist system deserves asylum, deserves to be protected. But in my view, and we've written this in the paper often, that's an old view. I mean, Castro is no longer a threat to the Caribbean, to the Western Hemisphere he once was. He doesn't have patriotism in Moscow supporting him anymore. He's pretty much a relic, and at one point he's going to fall, and Cuba will be able to join the rest of the community of nations.
If that's the case, Michael, then why the embargo? Why the blockade? If this is post-Cold War, why do we continue when we still trade with mainland China? We still trade with Vietnam. Communist country, in fact, Vietnam killed 55,000 of our guys. We train with the madman in North Korea. There's such contradictory evidence on the table here.
Well, I mean, one of your guests is, part of this equation. The Cuban American National Foundation is a very potent political force in Florida politics and in national politics, and it has made, that's the way it works here. You get in the lobby, you get organized, and you have your voice felt in Washington, and that's their right as American citizens to do so. But
it certainly has influenced our politics. There's no doubt about that.
Absolutely, and Cuba's become, a red herring, that we have this policy of an embargo. We have this policy of no trade, and what that, in my opinion, that's hurting the people of Cuba.
Not only that, it's made
the government.
Not only that, but if you know Cubans over there, it's even made them more solid-backed. Their thing is, we may not like this guy, but we're certainly not going to allow you to determine what our politics is.
Okay. But you have a dictator.
It's put them right in a box.
Can I just pick about that?
Sure.
We are not in the business of embargoing our people or making them suffer. We are the ones that have our families there. We are the ones who help our families there. So when we take this position to isolate Castro, to pressure him to move to freedom and democracy, the embargo, all he has to do, and a lot of people don't speak about that, for the embargo to end is to have open and verified elections. The people of Cuba have not voted Since 1952.
No, tiene razón.
Since 1952.
Remberto no lo va a hacer. El tipo no lo va a hacer. He's not going to do it.
But you have to.
And
what kind of leverage do you